Hello, I'm the Anne Dollery, the Vicar of St Dunstan's, and this is a reflection for Sunday the 26th of April. It's a reflection about the promise of God through Jesus to be with us in the everyday as well as the unusual and extreme. And in these days we find ourselves in different extreme and unusual circumstances. And the story I would like to reflect on with this promise is the story of Jesus' meeting with two of his followers on the day of his resurrection in the evening. And they are walking away from Jerusalem. They are walking away having heard that his tomb was empty. They are walking away having heard that some of the women had met with their risen Lord, and they could make no sense of all of this information. It didn't mean for them that there was good news. They were still mourning their friend and Lord Jesus, who had died on the cross and been buried. And as they walk along the road, they are despondent, they are upset, and they meet with a stranger. The stranger is Jesus, and they do not recognise him. They're kept from recognising him. And maybe at times in our lives, we are kept from recognising God in our lives, but he is there with us. And so Jesus walks with his disciples, with these two followers. He walks with Cleopas and his companion. We do not know the name of the other follower. It may have been Cleopas's wife. And as they walk, Jesus talks to them, asks them why they are so sad. They are astonished that he has not heard what has happened in Jerusalem. And they tell him what is the matter, why they are grieving, and why all their hopes with the Messiah, with the change and new life that they had seen in the promises of all that Jesus had done and said, had been dashed. And Jesus listens to them, and he listens to us. He listens to us with our concerns. He listens to us at this time when many of us may be anxious. Some of us will be sick. Some of us will be despondent. He listens to us in our joys and in our sorrows. And then he opens to Cleopas and his companion the promises of the scriptures, the promises of God that he would send a Messiah, the promises of God that God was faithful and just and loving, the promises of God for the people of Israel and for the nations of the world. And Cleopas and his companion listen, and then they come to their destination. They come to the village of Emmaus, and having heard the promises of God, they say to Jesus, who they still don't recognise, "Stay with us, have a meal with us." And Jesus, who says he's going to go on, says, "Yes, I'll come." And as they sit down and as they have bread, and Jesus takes the place of the host of the meal, and he says the blessing, and he breaks the bread, things that Cleopas and his companion would possibly have seen Jesus do many times before. And at that point, their eyes are opened, and they realise that their companion on the road, who has listened to them, who has borne their sorrows and their puzzlements, and of all their hopes being dashed, and who has opened the scriptures to them so their hearts burnt within them, is their Lord and Master Jesus. And then Jesus just goes. He's no longer there. Cleopas and his companion dash back to Jerusalem to tell the other followers of Jesus the good news that they had met with their risen Lord. In these days, as we travel onwards in time, Christ is with us. Christ is with us in our puzzlement, in times of hope and in times of fear and times of boredom. And we are given the scriptures as encouragement. I would encourage you to read the Gospels, go online, read it on your phone, the good news of God. And Jesus is with us in the everyday. At the meal in Emmaus, it is not a special meal. It is sitting down at the end of a long journey to eat with bread and simple food. And Jesus is with us in the everyday as we sit down with our families. And he is with us with that good news of resurrection life. The good news that Christ is risen and that we, with our risen Lord, are with God, and that God is with us today and in the days ahead. Amen.